Okay, we will try to find the right distance and volume. Thank you everybody for coming, for having the patience. We are deeply honored that we can host here tonight Francesco Albanese, Special UN Rapporteur on the situation of human rights at the occupied Palestinian territories, in Italian international lawyer, and many, many things that I'm sure you all know well about because you're here and you know that her work is groundbreaking, and we're also super happy that we are joined today here by Wafa Kanan Al-Burai. She's a Palestinian pharmacist, a humanitarian worker who has lived now for some years together with us in Ljubljana with her family, Mohammed, and 3 children. She has lived through the war in 2021 in Gaza, and she still has family there. I would just like to thank at this moment to Pekarna Magdalenske mreže, to Društvo Organizacija za participatorno družbo, to the Campaign for the Rights of Palestinian People, to Institute Open, Festival Grounded, and Amnesty International Slovenija, who have all made it possible for us to be here tonight. We will speak in English. If you have any questions later on and you would like to ask them in Slovenian, you're more than welcome, and we will translate them then to English. The event is being recorded, and I will now give the floor to Francesca and Wafa, and I'm certain that it's going to be a memorable evening, and I hope we all go onwards with more ideas how we can stop the genocide that's been going on for almost 2 years in front of our eyes. So, Wafa, I'll ask you to somehow take over, perhaps start with the first questions, and then we see how it develops. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. I mean, I'm really speechless since the start. I am really honored to meet Francesca in person and to see all those people who are really interested to listen to her. I decided to come today to talk to you as a Palestinian from Gaza, because I know that every single Palestinian there would like one day to meet you in person and to say a big thank you. I have so many thoughts, to be honest, but I will try to be brief and to leave the floor for you. As Christina said, because I have been working for more than 15 years in Gaza as a humanitarian worker, I know very well the context. Being a Palestinian, I was born to find myself living under occupation. I lived 17 years under blockade, the blockade in Gaza. I still have my family and friends, neighbors, ex-colleagues, and all my people there who are going through all this horror. So I will start first. I would like really to start because I have went through your report, your recent report, all your reports, by the way, yeah. And this one in specific, it was a strong one. As a Palestinian, I found it. So I would like to ask you, because when I have went through it, one of the things that you were talking about, because it's in principle it's talking about the economy of genocide. So one of the things that you were mentioning that some private sector involvement, they were like a mafia system. So I can see that they are like mafia system, that they are intertwined with a political and military relation to support the genocide and to support the economy of genocide. And you were also mentioning names in your report of some institutions, universities, some banks, and other private sector companies that they have a big role. despite that some of them, they are existing in countries that they are also opposing the genocide. So how do you reflect on this, and how can you explore more on that?
So first of all, good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be in Slovenia in the first place, because it's not easy, it's not obvious, although now the political landscape is changing a little bit, but it's not easy to be in a place where I'm embraced with so much respect by the institutions. Especially as an Italian, with the government we have in your neighboring country, it's not obvious. So it's been a very intense day, but frankly, and I said it to someone today, institutionally speaking, the best. I wish I had more of it. Now, I want to also thank all the organizations that have been preparing this event, and I know it has taken a lot. Also, I would like to share an anecdote that if I'm here, is because there are 4 people, including Christina, who travel 22 hours. 4 people and a dog who traveled 22 hours from Maribor to Kristiansand in Norway in February to deliver an in-person invitation to me. And when I saw that, honestly, the first thing I said, my God, Slovenians are like Italians. Because this is a Southern Italian trick, make you feel guilty. How can you say no? And so, no, it was so beautiful. And then we have been working to make it happen. And also the Slovenian government has been very, very welcoming. And I wanted it to happen in May, but I was so busy with this report that I couldn't do that. And again, really thank you. Thank to all of you who worked for making it possible, and those of you who are filling this room with so much energy. I have to say that I've been thinking about how would it be for me to be with you, Wafa, because for me it's very difficult. I know that's going to not sound intuitive, but it's very difficult for me to speak next to the Palestinians, because I really feel ashamed as a human being, as a mother, as a lawyer, as someone who talks to member states almost every day. And I mean, seriously, the Palestinians, as I've known them for the past 15, 20 years, I mean, they've not had one day without the brutality of the occupation, the settlements, extrajudicial killings, forced displacement, deportations, arrests and detentions, and all the other things that are crimes under the Rome Statute in their life. And actually, Palestinians have been experiencing crimes longer than, even before that we were born. So this is what I'm saying, it's such a protracted injustice that today I feel ashamed, because the genocide that is taking place in Gaza, which is not sparing anyone, it's not just Gaza. Israel is on an erasure mission of the Palestinians between the river and the sea. And the genocide is already leaking out in the West Bank. The objective is ethnic cleansing, and the means are crimes, genocide and others. So in all this report has been absolutely shocking for me. Because I know that I said, even for the Palestinians, it was something new. Not new. We knew the pieces of the puzzles, but we hadn't made the full sense of it. I hadn't made full sense of it until it was complete, until I had a database of 1,000 entities. And these are just what I've collected information about. Through lawyers, investigative journalists, civil society, there is a movement, especially young people, students who have investigated what their universities do, what the European Union is doing, and also faculty members, staff of the university, but also people working in the tech companies, etc., etc., the BDS movement, which has done a terrific job. So eventually I put together all this, and he said, oh my God, but this is what the private sector has always done, because throughout 500 years of colonialism, still micronational Cristoforo Colombo left, toward the Indies, and then discovered, bumped into Latin America. It's been colonization through and through, and genocides, settler colonialism and genocide, and institutionalized apartheid. And then the private sector has been constantly either a driver or an enabler of the dispossession of other people, depredation of indigenous groups. And so Palestine today is in stark contrast, not with history, but with where we are. It's 2025. How is this possible? And yes, there are companies that have helped Israel advance the settler colonial enterprise, which is made of two main actions: displace the Palestinians, displace the native indigenous people, and replace them with settlers. I'm not saying there are Israelis who live in the West Bank. They are Israelis against apartheid. They are not settlers. I'm not talking of all Israelis, because there are people who can rent instead of stealing. But I'm not talking of them. I'm talking of the 800,000 Israelis who are in the 300 colonies that have been established in the West Bank and East Jerusalem alone. And so to create this displacement and replacement logic, to facilitate, Israel has used companies, arms manufacturers, because you need weapons. You need weapons in order to force people out, and then you need excavators or other machinery in order to uproot trees, to demolish homes, to create an empty, like a slate territory, and then you need to segregate them and to surveil them. And so the fences, the burns, the walls, the CCTV cameras, and the checkpoints, and everything that has been, Palestine to me has always looked like an open-air prison, not just Gaza, everything. And I've even written a report in 2023 about that. So, after this, Israel and the private sector has helped Israel to replace the Palestinians, building colonies where they had been kicked out, building roads, water infrastructure, electricity grids, and then production of goods, the dates, the wine, the mineral products, the extractivism, the quarries. There are German companies who are now asking Israel to give more permit to create new quarries because they have exhausted what they had opened decades ago, And of course, they have even created tourism, Airbnb, Booking.com, advertising properties in the settlements. On top of it, there is what I call the enablers: universities, banks, pension funds, financial sector, charities. Everyone has been contributing to lend, or everyone in this sector has been contributing to lend legitimacy and funds to Israel. Now, I could have written this report decades ago. This is the economy of the occupation. And again, I was asked before, is Israel infiltrating? No. It's not Israel infiltrating anything. This is the logic of wild, unfettered profits that overtakes individual interest. So we don't count as citizens of Europe because profits are more effective and powerful than us in terms of decision making. This is what Palestine is revealing today. And then I'll give some examples about that. But to go to your point, I have found, and it's not a slogan, I really have the figures, I mean, it's mathematics, that over the past 22 months, that economy of the occupation has turned genocidal, meaning there are people who have profited from, first of all, they have continued to stay engaged with this with Israeli economy, while companies who are obliged to do due diligence and heightened due diligence when there are crimes. And mind you, as of 2024, Israel has been accused of committing genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the International Court of Justice has declared that Israel maintains an unlawful occupation, which is to be dismantled totally and unconditionally. The military troops, the settlements, and the control of natural resources. So why I mean, member states who have prohibited from aiding and assisting, trading, recognizing the consequences of an illegal act, one member states are still having an association agreement with Israel? Question mark. That association agreement, parenthesis, was a disgrace when European Union entered it. But today is really, it's a stain on all of us, and we have to reject it. This is why I'm so happy to be in a country which, unlike your neighbor, has called for the rescission of this agreement. But however, think that, and again, I really hope you will read the report. Over the past 20 months, the Israeli stock exchange has increased of 179%. Not all Israelis. The Israeli economy has been on free fall in many respects. There are Israelis who have lost jobs, businesses, and how come the economy kept on, not the economy, the stock exchange kept on flourishing? So it has amassed 220 billions in 20 months, 70 billions only in the last month. Why? Because there is a direct relation between the 5% that each member state is requested to shift toward armament and this industry. Because Israel has been testing weapons and surveillance services over the Palestinians for decades, and over the past 20 months, it has sophisticated this weaponry, the quadcopters that follow the color of the human being, the body temperature, and know when to kill. They don't distinguish. Maybe they distinguish between adults and children and don't spare anyone. But Palestinians have not been killed because of what they were doing. They've been killed because they were Palestinians. They've been tortured. They have been raped because they are Palestinians. They have been starved, they've been tormented, they've been left orphans, amputated without anesthesia, all these conditions, because they are Palestinians, and there are people who have profited from it. And now, I mean, somewhat we are implicated in this. I say, if Palestine was a crime scene, it would have the fingerprints of all of us. So first of all, yeah, it's time to stop this, and I hope that this is a call for all of us, on the one hand, to make sure that our governments take responsible actions. Politics is not opposed and should not be opposed to the law, to constitutions and international law. Politics should be perimetered and operate within the limits of the law. Otherwise, we live in an era that might make rights, and it is to stop it. Because eventually, these products, these services are going to be used against us.
Just to continue with this, because you are always, Francesca, asking in all your interviews the states, especially the governments, to take concrete actions, either political, legal, whatever. You are always asking them to take concrete actions. But at the same time, we have also the civil society movement that can have an influence. So how you can suggest or how you can advise the civil society movement to have more efforts to influence the decision makers, to influence their states, to influence their politicians, that they are unwilling to take any concrete actions, politicians who are afraid to be just nominated as anti-Semitic, to criticize Israel, to say loudly and to speak up that what is happening is a genocide, this is ethnic cleansing, and this should stop. What do you think about this?
First of all, I would like to say we are in a continent where anti-Semitism has been a plague for centuries. So you will never hear me downplaying anti-Semitism, the horror it was, it is, and it risks to be. Because I do hear there is, and it's awful, there is still lingering anti-Semitism, sometimes even in the questions I'm asked. And so this is why I push back. Israel, and this is what I've learned over the past 3 years, and I'm confident in what I'm saying, Israel does not represent the totality of the Jewish people. Full stop. I don't mind that it doesn't make any difference for me that Israel professes itself as the state of the Jewish people or the Buddhist people, Christian people. Religion doesn't make a difference. Anti-Semitism is discrimination, violence, hatred against the Jewish people because of them being Jewish. And criticizing Israel for its lack of compliance with international law has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. So you should feel reassured of this and by this. Plus, now, everyone is speaking out against the weaponization of anti-Semitism, especially the Jewish people. First and foremost, I've never seen such a level of mobilization, especially of young Jewish people who say we have nothing to do with this, including in a country like Italy, which has never had a progressive Jewish movement. And now you have several groups, and the same thing in France, so the tide is changing. And at the same time, think that everyone from the Pope to the Secretary General has been accused of anti-Semitism. Because today, whatever you say, you're anti-Semitic. No, I'm not, and I will never be. But at the same time, I recognize that racism is still very rooted in our societies and it's not been dealt with. We still have these in our genes. I mean, everyone, not just Europeans or the Western people. I mean, there is racism. I live in an Arab country, and there is racism against people coming from sub-Saharan Africa. So we, as a humanity, need to deal with this monstrosity. And at the same time, I don't think that the problem is this. There is a real problem, and this is where I think Slovenia is as a country, because, you might be super critical of the government and say, oh, but the government talks and talks but does nothing. Look, you have no idea of what this country is compared to the rest of Europe, because I've been in a country where I was almost arrested by the federal police. For what? For saying from the river to the sea. And there are tens of thousands of people, young people who have been beaten, who have been arrested, people who have been deported. As we speak, there are people who have been taken to court. Yasmin, the German of Turkish origin, and maybe this is her problem, the German who has been on the flotilla, the spokesperson of the Madeleine, she's facing legal proceedings, criminal proceedings. This is, it's incredible, and she should be supported, not me. I really get, and I don't want to offend anyone, but I really get annoyed when people look at me like I don't deserve any Nobel Prize, and I wouldn't want the Nobel Prize, you know what? Because I'm doing what every decent human being should be doing. I have my privilege. Because I'm a white European, even if as a Southern Italian, I've experienced some discrimination in my country. However, it's serious, but look at other Europeans. She's German, and she's facing so much discrimination, and so many like her, let alone those who do not have citizenship. So we need to face the reality that we are today. However, going back to Slovenia, so Slovenia has done a lot of good things, including joining and being part of the ICJ advisory opinion that led to that, the proceedings that led to the groundbreaking decisions that says the occupation is illegal and must be dismantled. Now Slovenia must, together with others, but also alone, follow suit. There is no possibility to continue engaging with the State of Israel without being in violation of international law today. I'm radical, but let me explain why. If we were in the face of apartheid South Africa today, let's move the attention from Israel to... Would you engage with the apartheid South Africa? No, and not just because of what the state does to the Bantustan. Another example, sanctions have not been imposed on Russia just for what Russia does in the occupied territory of Ukraine. No, because a wrongful conduct is attributed to the state, and the state needs to face the consequences. So Israel is inseparable from the crimes it commits. The occupation is the unlawful occupation is maintained by the states. There is a minister who's the finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who's the one who supervises the occupied Palestinian territory and also the sides of the budget of the state. And is the one who was received in France with a map of Israel that included Jordan and the occupied Palestinian territory, and no one made a peep. So this is why we live in a very dystopic reality today, and it's not possible to engage with a state which is accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide, and not be in trouble. So all member states and state institutions and private institutions must cut ties with Israel. So starting with weapons. You want to know what to do first? Weapons, because weapons is what Israel is using to slaughter Palestinians, adults and children alike. And so, which means don't buy weapons, don't sell, don't transfer, including the weapons that comes from Germany. Don't lend your territory, any part of it, your airspace, your sea, territorial waters, anything for transfer of weapons to Israel, and don't buy weapons and security services from Israel, because this is not going to make you safer. Of course you will face retaliation, of course, but this is why I encourage Slovenia to join forces with states who have a straighter back. I always take the example of Italy, but it's not the only one. Italy and Germany and others, and the UK, for example, because they're really doing the worst member states could do, or the United States. We need to step away from this enterprise, because it's thriving on crimes. And there are other states, including in the global south, who are trying to do something different and save multilateralism. This is the thing. Now there is the Hague group that is trying to say no ports, no airports, no space for impunity, no transfer of weapons, no purchase, and this is how we start to do the right thing, step by step.
And what about the civil society movement, the people? Because as a Palestinian, I'm always criticizing, and I believe that many Palestinians joined me on this. We have a problem with people who are still keeping neutral. And I cannot understand how people can still keeping neutral in this situation. And when I meet them, I'm always arguing with them that we are not watching a football game. This is not a football game that you can be neutral. Oh, I don't care about who is going to take this or this, or I am in the middle. This is not the time that you should be neutral.
But also we need to understand what the concept of neutrality is. And especially, I understand, as a special rapporteur, I thrive for impartiality. I mean, I'm accused to be biased, but I think that Europe is biased. Or universities who enter partnership with Israel are biased. Because they, again, impartiality means objectivity, looking at facts as they are, and as a legal expert, my role is to observe the facts through a legal lens. But of course, I also know that there is history and there are other components, so I also understand the context. But still, I look at facts and then I give a legal assessment. Neutrality, and again, here we are not in a symmetric situation. It's not, oh, but it's both of them. No, as she says, it's not a football match, guys. It's not the Israeli team against the Palestinian team. Maybe one day, but not now. Now there is an occupier, an unlawful occupier, and an occupied, a colonizer, and a colonized. And while I do believe that both Palestinians and Israelis are, in broader terms, victims of this structure, one brutalizes, the other is brutalized. And no one can brutalize another human being without losing his or her humanity. Do you see what I mean? So there is something... At the same time, I resent how the term impartiality is used, and then I will rant about neutrality. But let's stay on impartiality for a moment. The fact that impartiality is used as an elegant word for indifference and even to justify ignorance. And people like me will not let you do that, will not let you enjoy this hypocrisy. Not you, I mean others. But I'm saying neutrality is something else. How did it land in Slovenia or in the European Union? God knows. Because neutrality is what the ICRC and people operating in conflict zones observe in order to deliver food and humanitarian assistance in a conflict area. They shut up, they zip their mouth and they don't take sides. But the University of Ljubljana, I mean, what is it risking, frankly, other than losing funds? So civil society, I mean, I've been very critical of the role that development and humanitarian actors have played in Palestine. I've been one of those. I mean, I've left the United Nations because of the shame I felt inside me, and I was very confused because I was younger. But it didn't make sense to me to be in a place. I was there the years UNICEF issued this report that was talking about torture of Palestinian children in jail. We knew that at least one child had been raped in jail. Imagine if it had happened to an Israeli child, God forbid. We would still be talking about that 20 years later, considering, I mean, the discussion today. And again, we have so normalized the violence, the brutalization of the Palestinians that I was there and I was saying, but why are we asking Israel permission to do this and that? Israel is violating international humanitarian law. Why are we asking 50 years later Israel to respect international humanitarian law? It shouldn't be there, right? It's clear that Israel is using international humanitarian law to justify or to confuse us, no? And so, you know, even when 10, 15 years later, when the Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch had finally joined Palestinian human rights organizations and even Israeli organizations who said that Israel imposes apartheid on the Palestinians. Some of them were so audacious, like B'Tselem or Amnesty International, to say from the river to the sea there is apartheid. Of course there is apartheid. But the thing is that even then, I had to convince, I mean, really, I spent hours with civil society around the globe saying, guys, can you please say apartheid? not because we are going to lose funds. And you see, you have transformed the most noble mission in life, which is taking care of each other, into a business, into a profession. So may this profession perish, because it makes no sense. And this is why today, I mean, if we don't take a stand, it's not about forcing yourselves to say, yes, Israel is committing genocide. For me, you can call it pear and apple, as long as you stay coherent to the human rights mission, because eventually the aim, the goal of the international legal framework that has developed after the Second World War, despite the very nasty and nonsensical compartmentalization of international humanitarian law and refugee law and the Genocide Convention, which have created markets on their own, no? I mean, the scope of the aim of international law in the human rights framework is to protect life in time of peace and war. And we are going in the opposite direction. So civil society is to look at itself, engage in a moment of introspection and ask, what are we doing? Look at Amnesty International. It's not that Amnesty International is having an easy time, and still, it's always ahead of the curve compared to others. I'm not saying that because because I look at how many events I've done with the Secretary General of Amnesty International, because we are joining effort to speak truth to power, and this is what we have to do. This is the true meaning of solidarity. It comes from a word that has Latin, solidum, means one, united, one piece. And this is what we have to do today, knowing that what is to be in your every breath you take when it comes to Palestine is, first, ending the question of Palestine or ending this catastrophic situation is calling a spade a spade. This is not a conflict. It's an erasure. But Israel is an ethnic cleansing process that is punctuated by several crimes, and it is to end. And it can end and the roadmap is end the genocide today, end the apartheid by September this year, because this is what the ICJ and the General Assembly have said, and then end apartheid. You know, member states consume themselves as saying, oh, to state. Doesn't matter. Right now, after 33 years that have helped Israel triple the number of colonies in the occupied territory and help the settler become more and more ethno-nationalist and ideological, now it's not the time to talk about states. Now it's the time to stop the crimes and make sure that the Palestinians enjoy the right to self-determination. I'm terrified when I hear from Egypt to France to Saudi Arabia, everyone speaking about the reconstruction of Gaza while Gaza continues to be destroyed. It's not your business. It's not our business. Palestinians will rebuild Gaza as they have rebuilt their homes and their lives from the fragments of the exile in Gaza and in Gaza itself times and times again. We just have to make sure that there is breathing life left in Gaza. And for this to happen, again, civil society need to ask for an arms embargo and for curtailing any kind of economic dealing. Look, I really need all of us to understand that this report, the reason why this report has hit the nerve and has let the US administration go ballistic and signed letters calling me a threat to, a threat to to global economy. It's serious, they wrote it. A threat to the global economy. Me? Why? Because I've exposed the system. Because this is, when you talk, yes. No, but when you say Airbnb making profits in Palestine, occupied Palestine, is the same company which is transforming life in the city center of most capitals, emptying them of life for profits, so that developers come to your towns, to Italian towns, get all the apartments they can, private and public, and then, private and public actors, and then invest, and turn this into businesses, so that all the city centers become like an Airbnb, like a B&B. And this is, or think of Amazon, which has provided its services to, as a tech company together with Google and Microsoft, to Israel, as it was needing incredible data to spy on all Palestinians and map out all the Palestinians that had to be targeted. Well, look at the workers of Amazon. So you see, this report has exposed an incurable threat of the current economic system that has made all of us more vulnerable. I keep on telling Italy is much, we have more shops today, more goods, more services. Let's enjoy globalization. There have never been so many Italians under the poverty line as we have today. There have never been so many Italians homeless. There have never been so many delays in the health system to get a treatment for cancer. The education system, the health system, all the social services have been completely curtailed because of armaments, but because, eventually it's about profit. And I'm not calling to killing the market, to demolish capitalism. No, but there should be rules. And profits are not more important than our rights. And this is what this report exposes, because Palestine today is a test. And we are next, seriously. I think that this is the second time I say that. Can I? Sorry, when it comes, thank you. Sorry, because you asked me about civil society in this country has been so strategic in pushing for accountability, which I think it's very, very important, very important. The thing is that also discussing with the government what is possible and feasible, meaning where to start. And again, I do believe that a country like Slovenia, which has universal jurisdiction, is a country where justice, the courts and prosecutors, judges, lawyers, they should all ask themselves, what is our role today in the time of genocide? Because we need to interrogate the role of complementarity between national systems and international criminal court. Israeli courts are clearly unable and unwilling to investigate and prosecute crimes against the Palestinians. This is why there is an ICC investigation. And I think that it would be fantastic for Slovenian courts to be the places where Palestinians are allowed to seek justice. But for these two things, I was very, very surprised to hear that there are other Palestinians who have come from Gaza in the context of the genocide. They've been allowed to come to Slovenia because they were accompanying their children who had to be amputated, and now they are asked to return to where? It's serious. They cannot be returned to Egypt. And actually, I asked Slovenia to help these people to bring, if this is their will, to bring their family members here, because the least we can give to them is family reunification, because Egypt doesn't protect the Palestinians. I'm telling. And this is not against Egypt. This is, I'm a scholar of Palestinian forced displacement. If there is one thing that I know very well is the status and treatment of Palestinian refugees wherever they are. By the way, this is why I ask, where are you from? Where are you from? When you were displaced? Where did you go? And then I know the map of the exile. But again, Egypt is a state that doesn't apply the Refugee Convention to the Palestinians. So there is no status, there is no protection, and in any case, it's indecent. It's indecent not to afford protection to these people. So just saying there, this is a role for civil society to advocate and help the government find solutions. The other thing is education. Education. I'm surprised that there is so little knowledge about, also about where Palestine comes from. I've been asked several times about, are you talking of the settler colonialism? Are you talking about now, 1967, or are you talking about Israel proper? First of all, I don't think that the term proper really goes hand in hand with Israel. But yeah, Israel was the state that represented the only possible home for the Jewish people who survived the Holocaust. Our crime, our genocide against them. And because they were pushed back as Holocaust survivors, it's not that all of a sudden the concentration camps opened their door and they were welcome. No one wanted them. So I understand why for many of them there was no alternative. But from being the safe home for the Jewish people, this has become the only this has become the home only for the Jewish people. And it's not that Jewish people from Europe went there seeking refuge. No, 750,000 Palestinians were kicked out. This is the time to talk about the Nakba. This is the time to talk about the settler colonial roots of the Israeli project and the right to return of the Palestinian people. And for the Palestinians, it's also really, they talk about that like the return of the soul, reconciling themselves with a history. Of course, they are not asking to kick out any Jewish person from the river to the sea. And this has been the reality from the 70s. But however, the point is to transform privileges of some and oppression of others into rights and freedoms for everyone from the river to the sea.
Maybe I would like to continue on what Wafa said at the beginning, mentioning how we have countries that are critical of what Israel is doing, but at the same time their companies or even sovereign funds are investing in apartheid and profiting from that. And it seems this kind of schizophrenic situation, but at the same time giving even us, the privileged Europeans, the feeling of helplessness. We see, we protest, we tell politicians, we demand this is not right, this is against this and this law, and then nothing happens. It seems we're again and again gaslighted, if this is the right term, by the governments. For example, if we get concretely to names, we are facing, or we're not sitting very far away from Faculty of Mechanical Engineering, who is together in a project funded by the EU, by Technion, an Israeli institute very much connected or intertwined with the military complex and the occupation. Today, to the airport of Brnik, we had an Israel plane flying in from Tel Aviv, and weekly we have now 3 flights, and Israel is owned by a company called Rami Levi Group that is also operating on the occupied Palestinian territories. It's not something that our government doesn't know, because we've talked to them about it, and they have even appealed to the ministers to do something, explain themselves. We are buying a Rafael Spike system that is being co-produced by a subsidiary in Germany through NATO process, but nonetheless it's going to be Rafael Spike system that's going to come and take, I think, 30-something million of the budgetary money from whether it's health or education or whatever. We have here families of Palestinians in Gaza who have lived in Slovenia, who are calling it home. and our government is not prepared to open something that NGOs have been calling for, the additional or like legal ways how they can do family reunification. People who are ready to, find money to bring their families here, to bring them to safety, and they're even saying, they're not going to stay long here, they're ready to work, but probably they will try to move somewhere closer, or they're not going to be a burden. This is very important to emphasize, because they understand the racism that we are breeding day and day again. And basically, my question is, given all of this, we've been calling, we've been protesting, the students have occupied the faculty, demanded something from the university. The university said, we're going to talk to the ministry, we're going to talk to those, they have to say something, we can't do everything, we can't do anything. And, it makes people, tired. So what's the next step? Do we take the companies to court? Do we take the faculty of mechanical engineering to court because they're actively knowing that they're operating or cooperating or getting money and developing certain substances or mechanisms that can actually help in killing Palestinian children and civilians? What are the next steps? Because it seems that although our government is very good at, promoting international human rights law, they don't really do what they say. They don't follow through.
I would like to reflect on this, on the first thing that you said, describing the feeling of the people as helplessness. I understand as you feel. The way you feel, because I've been going around. I've been in 17 or 20 countries in the past 2 years, and closer to 2 years now. And I've seen rage. I've seen a sense of defeat, a sense of depression, and they say, it's fine. These are the stages of grief. We are all grieving. It's like what is happening is so shocking, of such abominable proportions that we are absorbing. And I was telling someone today, it's like when you cross the street and you feel like light struck. So there is a moment of paralysis. No, you don't know what to do, because the feeling is that you have tried everything. But look at the Palestinians. They are the first to say, this is not going to change overnight. Look at the patience, the stamina, and they've learned a lot from the Palestinians, their ability to stay gentle and gracious among the absurd nonsense, racism, Orientalism. And we Europeans do not have the luxury of feeling helpless. I understand the feeling, but let's kick ourselves there and say, okay, now get up and see what you have to do. And how? Together with other people, it makes sense. Don't think that your actions, your protests, and Wafa, I would also like to hear what you think about that. But I've seen a huge change. No, it's true that the system is vicious and Israel is carrying out a genocide. But my sense is that there are certain moments which become defining moments in history. And this is one of those. We do not realize, but we are writing a critical part of our history. We are on a turning point. We will not get out of this the same way we entered. And it's now we have the power to decide how we will get out of it. If better or worse. And if it's worse, it would be much worse. And so I do feel that, in fact, there is a response, because Palestine has become a global crisis. It's not limited. Look at the students protesting. When I was in the US, already in October 2023, I mean, it was young Jewish people, first and foremost, going ahead and stopping the streets and creating, because they said, it's like the 9/11, this time we have to protect our fellows. Because, of course, the system will go after them, being Palestinians or American Arabs. So I love this way of thinking together and acting together and resisting together. But, of course, the system is resisting as well, and it's becoming more and more vicious. Because Ilan Pappe, who needs no presentation, once told me it's like when little ants attack the snake. I mean, it's just ants. Of course, they are so much less powerful than the snake. But they attack it all together, and they bite, and they bite. And of course, the snake, fights back. Of course. And so the heats on all of you as civil society, on all of us as human rights defenders are very hard. Look at how harsh Germany is going against the freedoms, freedom of association, freedom of expression, access to justice, right to fair trial of its citizens. Look at how Western democracies and their liberal values are crumbling. So this is a test. We will miss very much human rights when we don't have them anymore. But because now we have them, let's use them. Human rights, I say that over and over, are not for university professors to write expensive books. They are swords and shields for all of us to be used. If they are taken away from us, even an inch, we have to resist and resist altogether. We have forgotten. Workers have been deprived of their rights. Individuals have been, the right to adequate housing has been taken away, and so the right to health. Do we understand what's happening? It's this fragmentation of all of us that has made the possible has made the system so strong and invincible, apparently invincible. And now we have the opportunity to fight back, to push back, or to speak out, and we need to do that. So you need to keep on
They gave me a refusal for her to come here while I'm paying my taxes. I have the right that she come. I have the right that my child is born in Slovenia. And they gave me a refusal. Why? Because I refused to spy for them. They asked me about Palestinians who are living here, which kind of activities, about demonstrations. They want spies to work for them. Otherwise, if you are not spy, they will not give you, they will stop visa. It's the same what is happening in the United States. It's the same what is happening with all around Europe. We have it also in Slovenia. I sent email to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, which she was also at my place. They helped my brother to come here, and immediately after he came, they came from Sova. They were asking me, they need something in exchange. nothing is free of charge. So if they help you, if they give you something, if they will give you visa, if they will give something to your wife, so you have to pay, you have to spy, you have to give information about your people. You have, and they describe anyone who doesn't obey or anyone who doesn't describe them as Hamas. This is what we have.
Thank you. And I think this maybe is also a really good, somehow example, because this is something we've talked about. So we need rules and systems that don't give privilege, but give rights and opportunities to all. I mean, can this be ensured?
But this is, again, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry to hear what your family has endured. I do think that there is a trend, and we are coming to the realization of the deep entrenched anti-Palestinian racism that exists in our societies, because again, there will be a moment of reckoning. There is an Italian, he's a Ukrainian Jew originally, but he came with his family to Italy many years ago. He's very famous because he's in theater, and his name is Monio Vadia. He's very courageous. And until a couple of years ago, he was the only progressive Jew we had in Italy, meaning speaking out against Israeli crimes. Today it's changing, thankfully. But he was saying the Palestinians are today the Palestinians are the Jews of 100 years ago. The Palestinians are, in fact, killed, they are blamed, and they are smeared. And they are not helped. This is the society. The system is not devised to host the Palestinians, to embrace the Palestinians, because their documentation, and I know that, their documentation is so messed up because of the occupation, because of the states where they've sought asylum 75 years ago, because many of them are still stateless. And we need to understand that. Now it's time, if we were really a progressive reality, progressive nations, progressive states, we, right now, European Union, instead of thinking how to save the European Association Agreement, would devise a system to protect the Palestinians, as it was for Syria for Syrians at the very beginning of the war, giving speedy protection to the prima facie recognition of refugee status, because most of Palestinians are refugees anyway. So I'm really sorry to hear what your family has endured, and this is to make us understand we need to hear and to listen to the Palestinians. I've seen for many months people getting nervous about even creating space to listen to the Palestinians. Why? Because the rage that the Palestinians bring would make us uncomfortable. And I say, guys, they're losing their family members. They're literally being slaughtered and starved, and it's horrendous and so I understand the rage and the frustration, and thank you for sharing this with us. I hope that the Slovenians in this room will understand that there is something. We need to create this space in every society to listen to them, to understand their needs, and to devise solutions that are tailored to their needs. And the Slovenians themselves have to be a bridge between the institutions and the Palestinians who need help today. This is what humanity commands, what humanity means. But also, because you asked me about litigation, I do think that it's time to pursue accountability. And as a lawyer, accountability is first and foremost through legal avenues. So courts, taking people to court. It's just that this requires time and means. But certain things can be held, certain reality can be held accountable also outside court. For example, what I've heard the Swiss people, and the Swiss people are not necessarily the most forthcoming in this continent when it comes to taking the street. And now they're taking the streets in the tens and dozens of thousands. So something is happening, and even in Germany. So things are changing. But guys, it takes time, and we need to get organized. So what I was saying is, yes, continue to protest. First, because it's an act of sanity toward yourselves, and you keep on seeing each other, and that you are not losing your mind. Second, do that because your government seems not to listen to you, but it does, and it will have to, and it sees you. So eventually, you are also voters. And this is why there is another part of the story here, that this country, like my country and other European countries that portrays themselves as very pro-Palestinian, like Ireland, have a significant anti-migrant and anti-refugee sentiment. We need to come to terms to this. This is why let's take this opportunity to educate each other about who are the real enemies. Is it the migrant and the refugees, seriously? Or has it been a diversion used by right-wing forces in order to put all of us against each other while keeping on carrying out their activities? When it comes to universities, I wouldn't go to a university who refuses to curtail ties with, and this is something that students have to take on themselves, but also the professors, the scholars, and the staff. You cannot deal with entities that are producing technologies that is non-neutral, even if the technology that you are developing is to the agro-business. If there is water involved, it's about exploiting resources, because the water comes from the West Bank. Most of the water that Israel uses and the water that has been deprived, that the Palestinians in Gaza have been deprived from, is from the West Bank. So again, I say that there is either litigation or you vote with your feet, stepping away. And just don't go to classes, don't pay your taxes. Just these entities have to be held accountable one way or another.
I want to reflect about what you were mentioning, because you were asking me if I will feel this change or not. Because as a Palestinian, because many of people, they will say, but Wafa, now more people, they are protesting. Of course, we can see this. This is not the thing that we cannot see. And we are, of course, impressed seeing people all over the world, even in countries that we don't know. We have never heard about them. In cities that we don't know, people that we don't know, but they are protesting, and they are not tired for 20 months now to protest. They are beaten. I'm always watching how they are beaten, but they continue with their children. So this means that they are also teaching their children that you have to do this. But at the same time, I cannot not say this. I cannot say that of what price. The price is heavy, is too much. And I always have a problem as a Palestinian that I should always explain and convince others that we are the victims, because we still, the media, the Western media here in specific, and I heard you once in one of your interviews, you were talking about the role of the Western media, that you are waiting for the day to see when the Western media, they will be taken accountable of their role in this genocide. And with the Palestinian, we are also waiting for this day, because what they did and they are still doing, this is inhuman. This could never be media, could never be journalism. And a very simple thing. The dehumanization of us, like it's always like like that we are, 33 Palestinians were killed. Why you don't mention who killed them, how they were killed? And those are not only 33, it's not only number. Those are people, they have life, they have family, they have dreams that they were dreaming of. Among them, they are my friends and my neighbors and my ex-colleagues, and I lost them or I lost their children, and etc. This could never continue like this. And we, the Palestinians, we feel really bad about it. We know that there is a big change, and maybe the social media played a role in that. But this, if I will compare the change to what is still happening, there is no comparison. It's not in parallel with it.
I totally... No, and I totally see what you say, especially when it comes to the media. I really don't know where to start, and I will not start because I really want to investigate this, hopefully through the terms of my mandate, and not too long. But there is one thing, is that there have been horrible, I mean, this is why we learn from history that we do not learn from history until we bang our head against atrocities. This is a defining moment in history, and we need to push as much as we can. And also, as women know, breathe through the pain to make sure that this is the last genocide of human history, and this is the last crime that Israel commits against the Palestinian people. Anything less than that will have been a failure for all of us. Because I do see that now Israel will never be able to return to where it was, because people now refer to Israel as an apartheid state, as a state that has committed crimes, and this will not change. But we need to use now all this knowledge, now all this power, knowledge is power, in order to push for that change at the political level, at the economic level. And this is where we are going to find ourselves as a humanity that is able to stand together.
I just would like to add one more thing about this, because this is something that I do like, and I always hear that there is a saying in many protests saying that we will never be free until Palestine will be free. And this is something I do admire, because the world should understand that the Palestinians, they are not standing up only for their freedom. We are standing up for your freedom also. So until we are not free, you are not free. You should understand this. This is very, very clear, because if the world is free, this would never be happening, and would never be happening until today for 20 months. And of course, we are talking about the 75 years of occupation and the more than 20 years of blockade. This could never happen if the world is free. So this means that the world also is not free. It's not only the Palestinians. What we are doing, that we are also defending all the world, not only us.
I hope you do not mind. I translate this for my people, for the Europeans in the room, because it takes, I mean, I've heard this for a long time, and actually it was Nelson Mandela who said it the first time. What does it mean for us? So I would like you to reflect with us about that. First of all, it means, I mean, today Palestine is forcing us to look into the past, and for the first time it's exposing, it's poking the colonial amnesia that the West somewhat has developed. I mean, we never talk, I mean, I don't know Slovenia, but we never talk about the colonial past of Europe. We never talk that colonialism was still there when the European Union was created, and it's clearly ingrained in the system. And therefore, colonialism has not disappeared. So the first thing is realizing what is the legacy of colonialism for all of us, and showing more respect for the global South, which is still fighting for full self-determination, not just Africa as a continent, but also think of the countries that were birthed from genocides, from settler colonial genocides. And they are all liberal democracies, parts of the West. The United States, 540 genocides. This is, the Native Americans have been, erased as people, although they exist as individuals, but they don't have their self-determination as a people. Canada has been committing a genocide against the Inuit, Métis, and First Nation until the 90s, without killing, by the way, by taking the land and by taking the kids away from their families. Australia, a genocide. They have killed an entire ethnic groups, and this was until less than 30 years ago. Look at the Aboriginal population. They're completely devastated. And the Maori in New Zealand, they have not been completely overtaken. But again, they're still struggling. This is why I'm saying this is who we are. I'm sorry. This is us, Europeans. This is what we have exported before democracy. So, first takeaway from what Wafa said is that we won't be free until we come to terms with our past, and we need to do better. So the second thing is that it's not that settler colonialism has really ended, in the sense that now, after many countries in Africa or in Asia became independent, from the Western colonies, France, Portugal, Spain, etc. Still, now they have, look at Congo. Do the Congolese enjoy self-determination? No, it's the richest country in the world, resource-wise, and it's completely devastated by the multinational capitalistic voluntarism. This is the reality. So the other thing that we need to learn is that, and especially I hope that my report has helped, is that no one is free until our rights are subjected to the diktat of those who control weapons, those who control algorithms, and those who control large capitals, which are a minority. And the third and last thing goes to the heart of our societies. And again, here is better, but the fact that the system has turned, in order to protect these interests, and now I will share the example from the Munich Technical University of Munich, which I've mentioned in the report, so I can totally say what I think, but is that you see a system where the police arrests priests, 80-year-old people, Holocaust survivors, students, a system where NGOs are criminalized on account of counter-terrorism legislation, where journalists are held accountable on account of counter-terrorism legislation. This is not normal. So this is being prompted by citizens like you and I taking a stand against apartheid, against genocide, against perpetual occupation. So we need to change the system from within, and we need all of us. We need students, we need activists, we need professors, we need judges, lawyers, prosecutors, journalists, mothers and fathers. Everyone is needed. This is the time. I often bring this example and this is how the United States and Israel as well have advanced their agenda by dividing the Arab states and then hitting them one by one. Look at the Middle East today. The enemies of Israel have been Iraq, Syria, Libya. Look at I mean, do you think that we are safe in this system? Iran, you don't need to sympathize with the Ayatollah regime. No one likes it. The Iranians, first and foremost. But the Iranians say, keep your bombs at home because we are going to deal with the regime the way we want. And Iran has been attacked, has been victim of an aggression. There is no self-defense. And then we have the German Chancellor saying that Israel is doing the dirty job for all of us. This is not my Europe, and I want to hope that this is not Europe as well. So again, it's time for a repulisti. And I often say, alone, individually taken, we are frail. We are fragile, of course, like wings of butterflies, but this is physics. This is physics. Together, if all butterflies started flapping their wings, they would make a storm. And we can make a storm and may it be justice. This is what I have to share with you.
I have also one more question, that because you are working within the UN system, and I'm here speaking again as a Palestinian, and I believe many people, they may join me. We are criticizing for many times the UN system as a system, and especially how they were acting during the 20 months of the genocidal war in Gaza. Do you think, or what do you think that could be really the structural or the political barriers that is always preventing the UN to have decisive and concrete action to stop such kind of crimes against the humanity? And I will take here an example, of course, of the UN Security Council. It's for 20 months, I don't know how many times, they were always trying to adopt a resolution for a ceasefire, and the voting will be always the majority with a ceasefire, and then we will get at the end the US veto that everyone is expecting. So this means that this system is not working anymore. What do you think about this? Do you think that, how at least many of the Palestinians think now, that this is really start to be a bit useless and there should be something to change within this whole UN system and mechanism to make it take more actions, either to stop this genocide and also for the future, to not allow such kind of crimes against humanity to happen?
Well, like you, first of all, I'm an independent expert of the United Nations, so this has put me in a position to be more critical of the United Nations. Look, when it comes to Palestine, I often say, over 70 years, if you're not part of the solution, you risk to be part of the problem. And the United Nations has got embroiled into this. Today, yet another revelation is that the United Nations, I think, suffers many limits, including the fact that it resents of a world order that conceived it, but when there were probably 50 or 53 members of the international community, and at the end of the Second World War, when the United Nations, that the organizations were formed, 5 members of the United Nations, including the US and Russia and the UK, France and China, held a veto power, established a veto power. So they found a way to preserve their power. And this has continued to be an hindering factor in advancing political developments. However, today the reality is different. There are 193 member states. And so therefore, if the system is doesn't serve its purposes anymore, it is to be reformed. So far, there has never been a space to discuss the abolition of the veto power. today it's starting, because it's clear that the United States, first and foremost, is not interested in protecting, preserving, rather the contrary. It has completely defunded the organization, which is collapsing. It risks to collapse unless, and look at what's happening, member states from the global south, and I'm not saying that they are angels, but member states from the global south are stepping in to save this platform. And we should all be grateful, because again, we in the West have been the ones who have benefited the most from this system, which has not served everyone equally. So I think that, today I was engaging in a discussion that was recorded, so it will be accessible with your president. And she was the one mentioning the need to abolish or to reform the UN Charter, to reform the organization, and to change the veto power. If we manage to achieve the liberation that you were talking about, which is also the liberation I was talking about, the liberation from this mentality of the past century. And if we can enter an era of multilateralism where we are all equal, this will be the legacy of the Palestinian genocide, which has ignited this crisis, but also this revolution. But we all have a role to play, because as I say, the counter-resistance is very strong. But look, and this is again Nelson Mandela, so many things looking possible until they become possible. South Africa teaches us so many things, including the fact that until the year before the apartheid collapsed, the violence had become so extreme that the movement, the anti-apartheid movement, thought that it was the end, because they were killing so many people. It has never become genocidal as in Palestine, but it was killing so many people, and it was becoming so repressive, and member states would not engage. The UK and the United States and other European countries were the last to impose sanctions, to agree with sanctions. But meanwhile, the anti-apartheid movement, made of people like you, ordinary citizens, had started. It started with two, we should remember, it lasted 20 years. This will last much less if we work all together and strategically. But it started with a young girl, a 21-year-old worker in a supermarket, part of a trade union, who decided not to pass grapefruit coming from South Africa as a cashier. I said, no, I'm not going to. You can. And then she refused to put these goods on the shelves, because they were grapefruits from South Africa, and she was without a salary for months, and she started protests, and other joined, and at a certain point she was recognized by Desmond Tutu, and this is what kicked off the global anti-apartheid movement. Here we are lucky, because the Palestinians have 20 years ago have launched the BDS movement. Join it. Look at what Amnesty International is doing, what Palestinian organizations here, also Slovenian organizations are doing. You don't know what to do? Join the movement that exists in this country. And let's think together, strategically, holistically. It's not that everyone needs to do the same thing, but we can do different things. It's unity in diversity. This is our strength today. And I think that at the end of it, it will be possible to reform the system. But we need to start by changing ourselves and correct and transform our sense of power and transform our sense of helplessness into a resource and that can use to change the system.
Thank you. Inshallah. Okay. And as promised, we now look at the hands that you raise, and I think we're going to probably try to get a microphone towards you. There's a hand already back there. And yes, be brave, ask questions. We will be really happy to hear them.
How can you start, how can you imagine the best outcomes for Palestinians in this moment? Okay, it starts, of course, with immediate ceasefire. And then what? Then we still have so many illegal settlements. Israelis are not gonna just magically disappear out of them, move out, or we're not gonna probably magically evict them from the illegal settlements, and then we're still left with so much, there's still such a prevalent mentality of everyday Israeli, that the mentality of supremacy, brutal racism, aggression. I think that whenever I start thinking about the best outcome for Palestinians, it seems like such a long list of things that have to be fixed. Do you know what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah. Shall we take more questions? I think we can take this one, and then we take more of them if...
This is what I call psychological overwhelming. You are feeling, again, it seems to me that you are looking at it from a problem point of view, and it's almost impossible to see the future. And this is where I think, and again, I've learned it from the Palestinians, Edward Said. Edward Said was not only one of the most prominent and okay, good. I'm not the only admirer of Edward Said. But again, because he was an incredible humanist. So he was clear. He knew what Zionism was as an ideology, and he knew that there are no pain-free ways of overcoming settler colonialism. But the point is, and again, I think that I can only answer part of this question based on my experience and engagement with the Palestinians, and also how I see Palestinians and anti-Zionist Israelis or anti-Zionist Jews work hand in hand. I mean, I suppose that, and it's difficult after a genocide, and it will take time to heal. And we need to remember that probably the most important word here when thinking of solutions, well, it's not about two states, it's not even about international law, it's about healing. Healing the bodies, minds, and souls that have been devastated throughout this genocide. And it's the Palestinians, but again, I don't think that the Israelis will get out that healthy from what they have done. And so I think that the Palestinians, the way I know them, and feel free to challenge me or just to, really, I don't want to take the space because the answer probably should be offered by you first and foremost, but the way I hear you, Palestinians, is that they don't have an issue with Jewish people. They have an issue with the apartheid. They have an issue with anyone stealing their land and destroying their homes and killing their children and parents and neighbors. And there wouldn't be an issue to live together in that place, considering they will never be able to bring the clock back. They will never be able to bring the clock back to 1947. No, before the British colonizers arrived. It's 100 years, but they can rebuild from here, but without apartheid, which means a huge work, not on the Palestinians, on the Israeli society. Because today, 80% of the Israeli society, according to Haaretz and its polls, is still talking about ethnic cleansing. So it's that society that needs to be kept under check. And so we need to work with the Israelis to de-radicalize themselves and and really to remove that ideology from the societal veins, because it has intoxicated all of them. Once I heard, once again, Moni Ovadia saying that something that shocked me. They say, "No, Moni, what are you saying?" And then it took me a while to understand. I've never said it publicly, and this is the first time I repeat it, but I think it's time to say that. Moni said, Zionism is the worst thing that could happen to us, Jewish people. And he said, no, the Holocaust was worse. And then he said, then I understood what he was saying. Because he said, it has corrupted us, our Jewish values. It has made us think that we needed to become like them, embodying this sense of strength, of power, of violence, of superiority in order to survive in this world. And so it's about confronting today that ideology. It's also for the Jewish people to interrogate their roots as Jewish people and what they have to do with Zionism. It says irreconcilable. So yes, it's a long process, but the thing is that not about the settlements themselves, which are easier to undo than the deep roots of that ideology that has festered, not just in Israel, in our society. And we have Christian Zionists who are cheering for the destruction of Gaza because this is the apocalypse that precedes the returning of the Messiah. I mean, guys, this is our world. So again, before thinking of how to heal the Israelis, let's deal with the wounds and with the trouble that we have in our system, including in Europe, because Christian Zionism is a reality that, again, has nothing to do with the Jewish people. It's our problem. So this is what I would say. But would you like to?
Yeah, I will add. Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I do agree with you, Francesca. With the Palestinians, we never have an issue with the Jewish people. And maybe because in the Western media you will never hear about this, but we have Jewish people who are living in Nablus, for example, in the West Bank. We have Jewish people who are living in Jerusalem, and they are always protesting against the Israeli occupation. They are brutally beaten by the Israeli soldiers. They are called Jewish haters. This is how all self-hated Jews. So we have never had a problem with Jewish. We have a problem with the Israeli occupation. We have a problem with the apartheid regime. We had a problem with the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. And turning to your point, because I feel from your talk or question that you feel powerless. If you feel powerless and you are a European citizen, you are living in a free country, and we, the Palestinians, I will give you a simple example of my family who are in Gaza, and they have been going through this all horror of a genocide. One of my brothers, for example, he's working as a teacher. Israel almost destroyed all schools in Gaza, but he's still working as a teacher with projects funded by UNICEF, for example. They destroyed all classes. We made tents to make them like classrooms for children. Children are continuing their education. They are doing their exams. My niece, she graduated from the university a few months ago as an IT programmer, and she's in Gaza, for example. My other brother, my youngest brother, for example, he's a radiologist. He's working in Nasser Hospital. He's working on duty 3 days per week, for example. After those 3 days, he's going to the tent, as he was forcibly displaced from Khan Yunis, and he's going to look for food for his 2 children and his wife. And after finishing this very dangerous journey to look for food with the Gaza Humanitarian Aid, American-based, military-based organization, he is going to the duty again and again and again. So you should never feel powerless, because we, the Palestinians, we will never feel powerless. We will rise up again, and we will do it. We will rebuild Gaza, and we will have our state.
Can I add something to this? And it's again, it's very important to remind that it's in the small gestures that we recognize really the acts of resistance as existence. This is something that the Palestinians keep on saying. But in the questions you asked, and don't feel a stranger, in the sense I believe many in this room feel the same. I hear the question, where shall I start? Because everything seems so problematic. But look, we need to start somewhere. And you start from what is close to you. I don't know what you do in life, but doing the right thing is... it's really, there is this, I forgot, I cannot pronounce his name, but there is this Vietnamese monk which has written a book called Peace in Every Step. Change is in every step. Doing the right thing is what makes me feel, I mean, it's not been easy to cross, I mean, to go through this 2 years or 3 years, because even before the October 7 it was not, no, I mean, it was, I have had sleepless nights thinking when documenting, for example, the situation of children, to prepare my report on children, which was titled Unchilding, or to talk about the arrest and detention. It's sickening to see the legal system that Israel has put in place in order to arrest and detain Palestinians. And then I hear people talking of hostages, just Israeli hostages, without mentioning the almost 1 million Palestinians who have been arrested and detained over 60 years. So I say, look, Palestinians have always endured that, but we need to, I mean, I've maintained myself healthy, mentally healthy, remembering that peace is in every step and change is in every step. I know that personally, I'm doing everything I can. I've put everything I have, including my children, including my family, my husband, in the line for this. And it's not that I'm having the time of my life. I mean, it's great to be with you, but I really miss my children. And again, next week I'm going to Bogota. This is why I'm telling the Slovenian authorities, find a state officials to come to Bogota, because you can do that. I'm going because this is what the world needs right now, commitment. And it's heavy, and at the same time, this is the sacrifice that all of us have to make from this space of privilege, sacrificing eventually a little bit of what we have so that the Palestinian people won't lose everything, won't have to sacrifice their own existence and everything they have as a people.
We have to keep in mind that it's in their sacrifice.
Yeah, of course. I was not claiming.
We have a question there. We have a question there, and there is another one there, and another one there. So we have 3, and we can perhaps, take them together. The girl in...
Hello, I'm Lea from the student organization Iskra, and I have one question for you. Well, first of all, thank you for coming, and I respect a lot what you do, but one thing that you said left me a little bit confused, and I want to ask you your opinion on that, because you mentioned that you don't call for the demolition of capitalism, but I think it's hard to speak about colonialism and genocide without mentioning capitalism, a system that is deeply rooted in mass murder and exploitation. And we see that neoliberalism in international relations doesn't work with the inability of institutions like the UN and the ICJ to help the Palestinian people. And you also mentioned the genocide economy and how Israel is benefiting from the genocide. So this is where I'm confused about how can we stop war and genocide from happening if we live in a capitalist system that not only embraces mass killings of innocent people, but needs it to sustain itself. So I want to ask you...
Hold on.
I want to ask you about your opinion on this. Is peace even possible under capitalism, or do we actually need to demolish it?
With all due respect, I'm confused by your question. Because, excuse me, I mean, I'm the special rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory, meaning not Che Guevara. I would really like you to understand that I have an institutional mandate that I'm pushing as much as I can. And because of this mandate, which, by the way, exposes the capitalist system through what they're doing to Palestine, I've done what I can. Now the rest is upon you. Upon you, not as a student, upon you as citizens. I mean, it's not up to me. I do not have the meaning, I do not have the means. I do not have a magic wand, I wish. I do not have really the mandate to do anything different than what I'm doing. So I've exposed the system like no one else. So now start. Take action from these 60 companies that I've exposed, because this is the capitalism that is strangling the Palestinians and all of us, frankly, all of us. Because as I said, Palantir is a threat to the Palestinians and to all of us. Unfettered capitalism is a threat to the Palestinians and all of us. So I did what I could, and now it's up to you to move forward with these messages for justice and help deliver justice for the Palestinians, and then for the people of Congo, for the people of Sudan, but also for the people of Slovenia. Because again, what I've heard in 24 hours I've been here is that eventually Slovenia is not very different from Italy, that you are experiencing economic hurdles that you didn't necessarily have 20 years ago. And so, again, it would be very different if instead of, and this is in general, and again, I really like the fact that you asked this question, and also because you are much younger, than them. You are much younger than me. Probably you have this hunger for full integrity and full honesty that I appreciate. And the point is that today we need to understand that we need to start somewhere. So within the limits of my mandate, I've explored the length of the injustice from a historical and legal and political and economic point of view. Let's use it as a building block, and probably the question would have sounded different if instead of a but, you say, I appreciate what you said, instead of but, you have an end. End. It sounds less adversarial, just for the future. I'm not the person to attack here, and not because you need to applaud me. It's just because, again, everyone has limits, and I have limits as well. My mandate.
Good evening, I am Alenka, and I want to say that it's a great privilege to be together with three such courageous women as yourselves tonight. So first thing, I think Gaza doesn't have much time. Gaza and its people don't have much time. So you have pointed out that this is a process that takes time. The past experiences show that time is needed to stop apartheid, to stop genocides, to address it. So and Gaza doesn't have the luxury of time. So I think this is the first point I want to make. Second, I want to touch, we didn't talk much about this tonight, how to ensure that humanitarian aid can get to Gaza So we know the situation is really grave. What can be done to speed up, to open the borders, to get food to the people, and so on. The third thing, let's say that theoretically the countries of the world will recognize and will have balls, if I can say so, to stop the genocides and the apartheid. So then we need to take things a step further, because somebody will have, I think probably we will need a physical line of defense. We see that every ceasefire has been broken, so we need to think about how we can ensure that once the ceasefire is reached, at least on a temporary basis, to make sure that, you know, we have something to maintain it, to ensure at least perhaps a physical barrier. Thank you.
I hope I've not been misunderstood, because when I was saying it takes time is also to explain that things are happening very fast. The genocide is faster than anything, but because Israel, and again, let me go back to the 12th of October or 14th of October 2023. 1 week into this, and I was saying, look, as a scholar of Palestinian forced displacement, I know that this is the opportunity Israel is seizing to advance the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. This has happened in 1947-49, in 1967, and I see, because Israel was destroying everything, it was a war, it was the 6th war that Israel unleashed against the people in Gaza, because it has happened in 2008, in 2012, in 2014, in 2021, in 2022, and there was also 2018, which was extremely violent, because every Friday the Palestinians from Gaza started to protest against the blockade. I mean, and there were hundreds of Palestinians killed and thousands of Palestinians maimed, amputated, because the soldiers, Israeli snipers, were hitting at the knees. So the trauma that has been inflicted on the Palestinians in Gaza is unspeakable. Where do we start? Israel in 5 wars had killed 5,000 people, including probably more. These are the figures from UN reports. Just again, and including, based on UN reports, 1,200 children. So this is why when I say 7th October was very violent, and there was a context. So, and this is the generation of Palestinians who have always been massacred. I mean, I've been to Gaza, and there are Palestinians in Gaza who had never seen an Israeli other than as a soldier shooting at them, either from a plane or from a tower. So I do understand that today the priority is to end genocide, because my prediction was right. Israel wanted to cleanse all the Gaza Strip, and then the West Bank, which is being cleansed, by the way, as we speak. The Jordan Valley is almost empty of Palestinians. So I ask the diplomatic mission there. Well, guys, like all Europeans, what are you doing there? What are you doing there? Get your cars, go to the occupied Palestinian territory, go to Masafer Yatta, go to Nablus, go to Tulkarem, because the life of these people is being strangled, and there is a need for a protection presence. However, in the immediate that we are, I'm wary, or I'm concerned of the word ceasefire, because the way Israel understands it is that they cease, the other cease and they fire. And it's not very convenient to the Palestinians. During the first week of the last ceasefire, Israel killed 100 people, including 30 children. And it's, I get sick when I think of it, because as I speak, I have the images of the child who's been killed, of the 13-year-old who was being killed while he was biking. First of all, there is this fire, and the guy goes biking, and then he's shot at. It's been brutal, when we will know everything, when we will not have enough pages to write this genocide. We will not, and there will be not enough time, because the cruelty that has been unleashed against the Palestinians in Gaza is really, and the sadism has been unspeakable. So of course, borders have to be open. Not just borders, I mean, let's unpack it. It's not Rafah. If there are crossings that have to be open, are the ones between Israel and the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. This is the time to undo the blockade. And it is to start, I've been saying that for weeks now, every member state with a port in the Mediterranean Sea, including Slovenia, which is not inland, I mean interlocked, is you have one navy, send it. It's not, I mean, power doesn't come with size, and this is why I'm saying it's time to send boats and navies with the Slovenian flag, with the Italian flag, with the Spanish flag, boats with doctors, nurses, not military equipment, tents, food, baby formula, and imagine what gesture of humanity it would be if every European country with a port in the Mediterranean Sea, if every Arab country with a port in the Mediterranean Sea sent a boat, not a boat, sent a navy with aid. This is the way we break the blockade, and this is the way we restore humanitarian aid. Because the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is not humanitarian aid, it's a joint criminal enterprise. I've said it from the very beginning, after having investigated who's in it, who's funding, who's protecting it, and I'm so glad that the Swiss government has started to pull out. You see special rapporteurs condemning, I mean, sometimes we have effect. So you see that the Geneva has withdrawn the status, the registration to this entity, and we Swiss banks have started to to refuse the possibility to open bank accounts to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And this is how we start changing the system. So it's not that I'm saying it takes time, it takes time to activate our brain and understand what is the right action that we need to pursue. It's okay, without applause, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think, yes. Okay, we'll take these two more questions, and then we slowly will have to wrap up. I apologize, but yes. Okay.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Amani Tawahina, a genocide survivor. We have been recently evacuated by the Slovenian government from Gaza a month ago. And to be here in Slovenia, after being in Gaza, it's so different, it's so weird to living the genocide and witnessing it. When you see the news, when you see the media, everybody is protesting, everybody is doing their harsh work to stop the genocide. But when you are here, you see the streets are full of life. People are smiling, they are joining their times at restaurants, and everything is just fine. Come on, guys. How is that could be possible? So it's really harsh, it's really painful. I have few friends in Europe in general. They, during when I was in Gaza, they were calling me, Amani, how are you? How are you? And then when life or the war, or sorry, I don't like that war word. I'd like to use that genocide word. When that genocide has keep going and going, they start like they're asking about me, and that question of how are you started to be less and less and less. But when they know that I am evacuated to Slovenia, Amani, I'm so excited that you have made it out. I'm really happy for you. You know, Amani, I feel a little bit embarrassed and shy because, you know, I haven't asked about you recently because the question of how are you has been so heavy on me because I simply know how can you. So now when I call my parents and family in Gaza, it's a very heavy question to ask them, how are you guys? Because now I know, now I feel my European friends. It's a very heavy question to ask your family, how are you? Because you simply know it and you can't like do anything for them. So it's really good. Actually, when I saw the long queue outside and I asked about that those people are in solidarity with Palestine, I was like, oh, they are really interested in that. I was so overwhelmed and really thankful for that. But still, that doesn't affect or change anything in Gaza. So what is happening there, it's beyond word to help me to describe it. Family and friends are beyond tired. So sometimes when they ask me, Amani, what did you cook for today? I tell them anything that they would make. So I don't like to share what I have, a privileged meal for the day. So I am in solidarity with them. So I don't know, since I have arrived here with my small family, it's been so weird to be in the different side or the other side of the world. This is not Gaza anymore, Amani. This is a different world. You know what? We have, yes, evacuated by the Slovenian government, and they did the hellish efforts to get us out. We are really grateful. But now we are starting to face the harsh reality that we are eventually refugees. So although I am skilled and my husband is skilled enough to be employed in any governmental institutions, but we're still facing the fact that they are still saying for us that, sorry, you are, yes, skilled enough, but you know the bureaucratic procedures. So how come you are supporting us to get us out and now we are facing this? So we'd really like to call upon the governments that those procedures or protocols that they have at those administrative units, that they need to change. I mean, yes, we are refugees, but we are skilled enough to keep going with our lives. So yeah, I just wanted to share this. If you can have any efforts that can be influenced that way, then would be it would be good. Yeah, thank you.
Shukran. And we will take another question there. Yes, and okay, thank you.
Yes, hi, my name is Luca, I'm from the National Press Agency, so I have some fresh news I would like to ask for your response.
But maybe we would not do this now?
No?
So thank you, yeah. No, maybe you can do that later on. Okay? Yeah,
okay. Okay.
It's okay? Okay, thank you. No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
But can you make sure that I have the opportunity to ask this question?
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Just come and give us a few minutes, and afterwards you can come and ask. So at this point, I think Wafa still would like to have few words. Yes, I think slowly the time is already pushing us overboard in many ways.
It's just one last thought from me, and because today I'm here as a Palestinian and I'm talking on, hopefully, yeah, I tried to talk on behalf of my people. We would like to say thank you very much, Francesca. People, they are following you, and we know what you are doing. And we also know the challenges that you are going through. You have been going through, and you are still threatening and risks you are going through. We know we know all of this, but you choose to be on the right side of the history. You choose to challenge this and to keep going with all compassion, with all your courage that we admire. So again, I would like to say a big thank you from all of us and from the bottom of our heart. And please keep going. We need so many people like you in this world until we get justice. One last thing to everyone. What the Palestinian needs is not charity. We just need justice. This is what we need. And it's the duty of every single person on this planet.
Okay, Shukran, thank you.
Because Amani had a question.
Sorry?
Amani had a question.
Amadi had a question. Yes, sorry. Okay.
Hi. Amani, I totally hear, so first of all, thank you, I'll come back to that, but Amani, I totally hear you, and this has been, this cognitive dissonance between there and here, it's what I grew accustomed to. I remember when in December 2023, I live in Tunisia, a country which is probably the most empathetic of all Arab countries with the Palestinian people. For 3 months, you would enter shops or places and you would see people sobbing. Then, of course, now it's different. Life resumes, but it doesn't mean that there is less solidarity. But there was no music, which for Arab people is a lot. But so there was this sense of like shock, societal shock because of what was happening to the Palestinians. I come back to Europe and I was so, I couldn't go out, and this is a feeling that I've always had, like I was feeling guilty, and I felt guilty for every aspect, for enjoying anything in my life, like cuddling my children when sleeping, or taking a shower, or hearing complaints about, my children complaining about food. Sometimes I've realized that I was not functioning as a normal human being anymore. So I remember coming back to Italy, and there was Christmas, and people were just having fireworks. Like there had been already 8,000 or 12,000 Palestinians killed, and I was saying, but this is the country which, 30 years ago went really not only out on the street, but it was so hard. The pain of the Palestinian people was so heartfelt. What is happening to us? I think that we realize that we are, something is broken inside us. And this is another aspect where I think Palestine is a revealer of where we are and is awakening a sense of consciousness. I've never seen in my country people walk. This is something that shocked me when years ago I moved to the United States, because I was seeing my yoga friends getting out of their studio and feeling more empathy for dogs than for the people sleeping in the street. But this is what we have become as a society. I've never seen Italians walking over the body of other people, and now we have homeless people everywhere. Guys, this is not normal, and this is why I say we cannot cure this. We cannot cure this. I would really like to do what I've seen other Palestinians doing, including in Gaza. I've always seen Palestinians celebrating life amidst the adversity, and I'm not saying do that, celebrate life here in Slovenia, and don't feel the horror of what is happening to your people. I feel it the same, and I'm not Palestinian. But we need to be able to keep protecting the sanctity of our life, the space of love that we have in our life, and keeping nurturing us, healing us. So let this space heal you while also taking care of you as a refugee. So I hope that at least this will be the legacy of my visit. I want to hear from you in 2 months and know that there are people who have been taking care of you. Because if we are not able to take care of each other, we are broken beyond repair, and I think this is not the case. So I would like to leave you with this. I feel very embarrassed, and for real, when Palestinians thank me, because you should be the last people to thank me. Europeans, yes, because I'm saving your face, people. But not Palestinians. Not the Palestinians, because I'm doing what every human being decent human being should be doing. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm embarrassed when people praise me, because there is no glory. There is no glory in being the chronicler of a genocide. Yeah, let's keep on smiling, let's keep on taking pictures with each other, but let's use it as a reminder. I want that every picture you take with me is a reminder of the work that you have to do. Otherwise, it would have served no purpose. And yes, when I often say, actually, no, this is my husband who said that. He said, one day when we will ask ourselves how we have survived throughout this genocide, we will remember how many times we have held each other. I mean, me and him, but also our friends, and celebrating life together in the little that remained of our sanity. And this is what remains of this, is love. Treating ourselves and treating each other with love is what we need to remember doing in everything of our life. I know it sounds more Osho than a special rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory, but eventually we are human beings, and this is what we need to tell each other as friends, first and foremost, before being Europeans. Voila. Thank you very much.
Also, thank you. Thanks to all of you who have been here, who have shared this evening with us. Thanks again to all the organizers, to Slovenian Filharmonija, who opened the doors in short time. Thank you, Francesca, for being with us, for leading with example, for showing us, like Palestinians do every day, what sumud means, for reminding us that if we see each other as humans, if we treat each other as humans, as you say, we can build a better world that is out there, that you mentioned, I think, yesterday in Maribor, that another world is forming and coming, and it's going to be more nurturing, and we're going to take care of each other, standing side by side. And yes, it is your work that somehow shows us the way, and thank you so much for it. And of course, thanks to all of you, for all the Palestinians, for being out there, for keep going. And yes, let's see each other again soon, and let's do something.